The most dangerous men in history weren't the ones who learned to control other people. They were the ones who learned to control themselves first. And almost nobody talks about what that actually cost them. In 1502, Niccolò Machiavelli was sent as a diplomat to observe a man named Cesare Borgia. History remembers Borgia as ruthless, a prince who eliminated rivals without hesitation, who moved through betrayal and assassination like they were paperwork. That's the part everyone quotes. That's the part that gets clipped into thumbnails. But it's not the part that made Machiavelli obsessed enough to build an entire philosophy around him. What actually struck Machiavelli wasn't Borgia's cruelty. It was his composure. Borgia never let a public humiliation, a betrayal, or a catastrophic setback change his face. When his own father died and his political protection collapsed overnight, when allies he trusted turned on him within weeks, he didn't unravel in front of anyone. He absorbed disaster the way other men absorb good news, calmly and without explanation. Machiavelli called this virtù, not virtue in the moral sense, but the capacity to master your own reactions so completely that fortune itself stops being able to move you. Here's the contradiction nobody puts in the same sentence. 400 years later, a Swiss psychiatrist named Carl Jung would go through his own private collapse and come out the other side describing almost the exact same discipline using completely different language. One man was a political strategist who studied armies and betrayal. The other spent his life studying dreams, symbols, and the unconscious mind. On paper, they have nothing in common, and they were pointing at the same target. By the end of this video, you'll understand why the cold, controlled man you respect and the psychologically integrated man Jung wrote about are not two different ideals competing for your attention. They are the same man, described from two different angles, one from the outside, one from the inside. And once you see it, you can't unsee it, in other people or in yourself. Stay for the next 12 minutes, because there's a moment near the end of this video, the exact point where these two thinkers collide, that will probably make you look back at your own worst moments and realize you've been diagnosing them wrong the entire time. Here's why this matters right now, not in the 1500s. Most self-improvement content today gives you one half of this equation and sells it as the whole thing. Half of it tells you to be strategic, cold, calculated, hard to read, unbothered. The other half tells you to heal, to sit with your feelings, to process your trauma, to talk about your inner child. Almost nobody tells you these are not competing philosophies. They are the same project, viewed from outside and inside the same person. Machiavelli believed a ruler's greatest threat wasn't his enemies on the battlefield. It was his own unpredictable impulses, because impulsive men could be manipulated by anyone patient enough to study their patterns. A man who reacts the same way every time he's insulted has, without knowing it, handed a lever to every person around him. Jung believed something that sounds, on the surface, like the exact opposite. That the parts of yourself you refuse to look at, what he called the shadow, don't disappear when you ignore them. They don't get quieter. They just start running your life without asking your permission, disguised as bad luck, as other people's fault, as circumstances beyond your control. One says, master your reactions so nobody can use them against you. The other says, master your unconscious, or it will act on your behalf without your consent. Hold that tension for a second. It sounds like these two men are giving you opposite instructions. They are not. We're going to resolve exactly where they meet, and it's going to change how you think about self-control for the rest of this video. Machiavelli's fascination with Borgia wasn't really about politics. Underneath the political theory, it was about information, about what a man gives away without meaning to. Every uncontrolled reaction you have, anger, panic, desperation, the hunger to be liked, the flinch when someone doubts you, is a piece of information you are handing for free to anyone paying attention. Borgia understood something most men never learn. A leader who reacts predictably becomes a leader other people can steer from a distance, simply by pressing the buttons they've already identified in him. In The Prince, Machiavelli argued that a ruler must be willing to act against his own comfort, his own sentiment, even his own reputation when the situation genuinely demands it. Not out of cruelty for its own sake, but because sentiment is a liability the moment other people know exactly how to trigger it. He wasn't telling rulers to feel nothing. He was telling them that feeling and action are two different systems, and a smart man never lets the first one drive the second one on autopilot. Translate that out of a 15th century court and into your actual life. Every time you explode at a comment online, every time you chase validation from someone who's already made it clear they don't respect you, every time you collapse into anxiety the moment someone goes quiet on you, you are broadcasting your entire control panel to everyone around you. And people notice. Not consciously, most of the time, but they notice, and they adjust how much they respect you accordingly. Here's the twist most retellings of Borgia get wrong. His composure was never the absence of emotion. Contemporary accounts from people who actually knew him describe real fury, real grief, real fear in his private conduct. Moments where the mask came off entirely, in private, where no politics were at stake. The discipline was never about feeling nothing. It was about refusing to let what he felt dictate what he did next, in public, when it mattered. That is the hidden truth buried inside Machiavellian self-control. The part almost every summary of The Prince skips entirely. It was never about becoming numb. It was about building a deliberate gap between the feeling and the action, and guarding that gap like it was the most valuable territory he owned. Because it was. Now here's where it gets uncomfortable. Because Jung would ask a harder question than Machiavelli ever did. Fine, you've built the gap between feeling and action. But what happens to the anger, the fear, the desperation you're refusing to act on? Where does it actually go? Machiavelli tells you to control the reaction. He doesn't tell you what to do with what's underneath it. Jung's entire life's work was built around one uncomfortable answer. If you only suppress it without understanding it, you haven't mastered it at all. You've just buried a version of yourself that is going to resurface somewhere else, usually at a worse time, usually with worse consequences. Between 1913 and 1917, Jung went through what he later called his confrontation with the unconscious, a period so disorienting that several of his own biographers describe it as bordering on a genuine breakdown. He'd just broken from Freud, lost his professional community, and started experiencing violent, disturbing visions he couldn't explain. Instead of pushing that material away and pretending it wasn't happening, he did something almost nobody in his position would have done. He sat down every night, recorded the dreams and the visions in detail, and started mapping them like a scientist mapping unfamiliar terrain. He called the disowned, rejected, unacceptable parts of a person's psyche the shadow. And he argued something that still unsettles people today. Until a person makes that material conscious, actually looks at it, names it, owns it, it doesn't vanish. It keeps directing their choices from underneath, disguised as circumstance, disguised as bad luck, disguised as, "That's just how I am." That's the insight most self-disciplined content never reaches, because it's a harder sell than just be disciplined. A man who suppresses his weakness without ever understanding where it comes from isn't actually in control of it. He's just postponed the moment the shadow takes the wheel, usually late at night, alone, exactly when the willpower that held all day finally runs dry. You've seen this in real people. The disciplined executive who has one catastrophic affair he can't explain. The composed, unbothered man who explodes over something trivial and can't say why. That's not a failure of discipline. That's the shadow collecting on a debt that discipline alone was never designed to pay. The practical implication is blunt, and it's the one most men skip. Discipline without self-honesty isn't a solution. It's a countdown timer with the display turned off. So here's where the contradiction actually resolves, and this is the part of the video worth rewinding. Machiavelli says, "Don't let your impulses run the show, because predictable men get controlled by anyone patient enough to study them." Jung says, "Don't suppress your impulses blindly, because ignored material runs the show anyway, just wearing a disguise." On the surface, those sound like opposite instructions. One says restrain, the other seems to say express. They are not opposite. They are describing the exact same failure state from two different directions. What Machiavelli called losing your virtù, becoming ruled by fortune, by circumstance, by other men's manipulation because your reactions were never your own to begin with, Jung called being possessed by the unconscious. Same collapse, completely different vocabulary. The strategist looks at a man who reacts instead of choosing and sees weakness, exploitability, a man who can be steered.
The psychologist looks at the exact same man and sees a shadow that has quietly taken over the driver's seat while its owner was busy performing composure. They were describing the same failure state from outside and inside the same skull, 400 years apart, with no idea the other existed. Here's the sentence worth remembering, the one this entire video has been building toward. Real self-command is neither suppression nor self-indulgence. It is the practice of knowing exactly what's inside you before you decide what gets permission to act. You cannot out-discipline a part of yourself you refuse to look at, because it will simply wait you out. And you cannot heal a part of yourself you refuse to control, because insight without restraint just becomes a new excuse with better vocabulary. Both halves are required at the same time in the same man. Almost nobody selling self-improvement content tells you that, because it's a harder, slower, less flattering process than either half alone. You've probably already met a version of this collision, even if you never had the language for it. Think about the most together person you know, the one who never seems rattled, who handles pressure at work without flinching, who other people describe as unshakable. Now think about what you actually know of their private life. More often than people expect, there's a second story running underneath the composed one. A habit they can't explain to themselves. A relationship pattern that repeats no matter how many times they swear it's different this time. A temper that only comes out with the people who love them most, never with strangers. That's not a coincidence, and it's not hypocrisy either. It's exactly what happens when a man builds the Machiavellian half of this equation. The composed, unreactive exterior without ever doing the Jungian half underneath it. He gets very good at the performance. He never gets good at the maintenance. And performance without maintenance always finds its bill eventually, usually delivered to the people closest to him, because that's where the guard comes down first. Most men watching this right now assume the goal, the finish line, is to become harder to read, cold, unreactive, unbothered, the stoic aesthetic that gets clipped into 1,000 short-form videos with dramatic music behind it. That assumption isn't just incomplete, it's structurally backwards. And it's why so many men who work hard on discipline still feel hollow, still feel like they're performing a role instead of living as themselves. A man who is merely unreactive on the outside, while his unexamined shadow runs completely unchecked underneath, isn't disciplined. He's a pressure vessel with better posture and a calmer face. Sooner or later, in the wrong moment, with the wrong person, in the one situation he never trained for, that pressure finds the crack nobody was watching, because nobody, including him, ever looked. The uncomfortable truth this entire video has been building toward is this: the private work, sitting with what you'd rather not look at, naming the pattern instead of just suppressing the symptom, being honest about the thing you keep excusing, is not the soft, secondary, optional part of becoming a powerful man. It is the entire foundation the composed, controlled version is built on top of. Skip it, and you are not building virtù. You are building a mask with a timer running on the inside that you can't see. Say it plainly, because this is the line worth writing down. Control without insight is a performance, and insight without control is confession. Neither one on its own is power. The man you actually respect, the one whose calm feels earned instead of rehearsed, has done both quietly, without an audience, long before anyone else noticed the difference. So the real question was never, how do I become harder to read? That's the question that gets you a good performance and a private collapse later. The real question was always, what am I refusing to read in myself? Because the parts of you left unexamined don't stay quiet just because you've gotten good at ignoring them. They wait. They wait for the exact moment you're too tired, too tested, or too comfortable to keep standing guard. And then they make the decision for you. If that reframed something for you, the next video goes further into exactly how the shadow disguises itself as other people's fault, and why the men who never learn to look for it end up being the easiest men in any room to read, predict, and quietly control. Because here's the part that doesn't fit neatly into a caption. The mask always slips somewhere. The only choice you actually get is whether it slips in a locked journal, in front of a mirror, in a conversation you chose to have honestly with yourself, or in front of the people you least wanted watching, at the exact moment your composure ran out of runway.
Choose the room. Do it before life chooses it for you.